What up, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Estate Unlocked podcast. I am your host, Joseph Marone, and today we're going to be covering a long overdue topic in real estate, a low-cost option for your outbound lead generation, a smart way to save time and still scale your real estate business. Today, we're going to be covering the importance of virtual assistants. Virtual assistants are remote professionals who can assist your real estate business by performing various administrative tasks. These tasks include cold calling, marketing, sales, and customer service. Unlike traditional in office assistants, VAs work from a remote location, typically overseas, and communicate with their clients via internet, phone, or email. Now, if that sounds like something you've been looking for to help scale your real estate business, this episode will cover all the benefits a virtual assistant can do for you, what questions you should be asking, and the various ways you can hire one today. Now, you know how we do it on the Real Estate Unlocked podcast. If we're going to do it, we got to do it right. We can't just bring on anyone to speak about virtual assistants. We got to bring on the CEO of virtual assistants. Today, our special guest on the podcast is Mr. Sebastian Wright. Sebastian's real estate journey began just 6 years ago, starting out as a real estate agent. A year in, he stumbled across the concept of wholesaling, instantly becoming the base of his entire real estate business. He then decided to challenge himself even further by diving into fix and flips, profiting him well over six figures, all of which was generated with the help of virtual assistants. He now owns several Airbnb properties and the CEO of his own VA company, VA Depot. So without further ado, I've been talking long enough. Everyone, if you will, please allow me to formally introduce to you Sebastian Wright. Sebastian, how's your day going, brother?
Oh man, thanks again for the great intro. It's going well, and excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, Sebastian, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to allow us to shed some light on the importance of virtual assistants. As you know, they are a crucial component in this industry, and if used correctly, they can really scale and take your business to the next level. So, thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no problem.
Cool, man. So, why don't we start things off by you telling us a little bit about your real estate journey and what made you want to start up your own virtual assistant company in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I started out as an agent, and I was a terrible agent. I wasn't good at it. And then I stumbled across wholesaling, and where I was fit into wholesaling was cold calling myself.
Okay.
And again, I'm sure anybody who's cold calling, they have their nerves, they're worried about it, they think people can bite them over the phone. I mean, it's a lot. It's stressful.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where I just cut my teeth in investing in general was, trying to be comfortable over the phone. And as I kind of moved up through cold caller and just started progressing in my career, I was just thinking there must be a better way out there than me constantly calling people. Um,
Right.
and that's kind of how things kind of progressed into starting a virtual assistant company.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. My first time jumping on the calls with sellers, man, it's nerve-wracking, right? Like you mentioned, jumping on cold calling, it's like you don't know what you're gonna get when you get on that line with that seller, right? So it's
Yeah,
definitely
and
nerve-wracking.
and again too, it's just most of the time we have scripts, and again too, it's just kind of getting comfortable with that script. But yes, it's still to this day I still cold call myself, which is kind of hard to believe. Excuse me. But I still get those nerves, and I still get frustrated, and all the feelings that everyone has. So yes, I agree. Absolutely.
Right, right. So for those unfamiliar, could you explain what a virtual assistant is and how they can help benefit our business?
So a virtual assistant is a professional that can help you with a number of tasks. At VA Depot, we specialize in cold calling and outbound outreach. But they can, a virtual assistant can help you with a number of things. They could help you with admin stuff for your business. They can help you with video editing. They can help you with design. So again, too, it's a virtual assistant is someone that helps you um, with any type of task that you need, that you hire them for. And usually they're in my case, in most cases, they're not based in the US. They're based in different countries, and again too, they're just professionals, most of them.
Right. And I think you would agree that some people are under the impression that VAs only do cold calling. But as you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
laid out perfectly, they have a range of services that they cover.
Correct. Again, too, if a VA is pretty much limited to what your imagination can bring to them. So again, there's VA Depot, we specialize in cold calling, but again, there's a number of tasks that VAs specialize in, and you just have to kind of look out for them.
So once I hired this VA, Sebastian, it's just set it and forget it, right? I'm off to the races of making millions.
That would be a perfect scenario, but unfortunately, no, it's not. The one thing that I have to constantly remind people is like, okay, you found a VA, and then now you don't have to do that particular task. Let's just say cold calling, right? But um, what quickly replaces you actually cold calling is training the VA.
Mm,
Now there are scenarios where people like, okay, hey, this is the script, this is the dialer, get on it, start making calls. There are some people and some VAs that are successful that way, but the mass majority of our clients and just in general, I would highly recommend that training is absolutely key. In any retrospect, just a quick example. I used to work at the Ritz Carlton, at the
right.
at the hotel chain, and before we could even say hello to a guest, you know, they would train us on how to say hello and how to end the conversation, and that is just based on training.
Right.
They want you to greet their guests a certain way, and for your business, it kind of has to be the same way. The VA is an employee; it's an extension of you, and you need to train that VA.
Yeah, I think this is a common mistake for some people. You need to fully understand your business so that way you know how to train and give proper feedback, right? It's a virtual
Absolutely.
assistant. They are an assistant. They aren't going to create your business for you. You're the
Mm,
operator, they assist.
100%, 100%, absolutely.
So, for our listeners who are convinced about the benefits of hiring a VA,
Mhm.
what are the first steps that they should take to find and onboard a virtual assistant?
Well, there's a number of ways that can happen. Um, for example, obviously I'm biased. I have a company, so please visit my website
Right.
and look at what we can offer. But it's really funny how a lot of people just come in contact with VAs. I think you and I, Joseph, have a very similar story about how we even got introduced to a VA. A lot of
Absolutely.
the time, VAs are go-getters. They understand sales, and they're reaching out to potential property investors, wholesalers, and reaching out to them and say, hey, do you need this services? And they send you, some audio clips, a resume. And at first you're kind of like, what? What is this? But then you quickly realize, like, oh wow, this is well put together. They're professional. They have this great presentation, and then all of a sudden you kind of you're off to the races with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I like you said, we have a very similar story. I've
Hmm.
always heard about, VA companies or whatnot,
Hmm.
but the very first VA that I came in contact with, she actually reached out to me directly through Facebook Messenger.
Yes.
And I didn't know how to take it at first because I'm like, I don't know, man. This might be a scam. I don't know if she's scamming me, but
Right.
I was like, hey, can you send me some sample calls, or and she said send me some calls over, and I
Mhm.
listened to them, and I was like, dude, she's great.
Yeah.
She's really good at what she does. I don't really got to train her. And I was
Mhm.
like, I'm just going to take my chances. And I rolled the dice, and it worked out for the most part very well. But,
Correct.
I think the proper way is something like, what you guys have got going on over there at VA Depot is really working with a company. That way,
Mhm.
everything's set up properly. You're making sure that everybody's protected on both sides, right? And you're
Yep.
getting quality VAs, right? So I
Absolutely.
agree. I agree with you on that. So,
Absolutely.
Sebastian, how can VAs be trained to properly qualify leads?
So, all I can say is what I'm experiencing right now. So
Okay.
right now we're like a section of my company, we're really focusing on the retail side of business. So agent leads, FISBOs, expireds. We have invested in coaching on ourselves, and then basically, we have a very, very intensive uh, coaching program with our VAs, training program with our VAs that's still continuing to right now. So how I do things is that I go ahead, I send out the script to the VAs, and I tell them, I was like, look, I want you to review the script, take your time with it. And that will be about, 24 hours that I'll give them with the script. The following day, we have meetings at the beginning of the day with the agent that I'm working with and their VA, and we are constantly role playing, we're constantly training, we're constantly doing things to improve the VA, because at the end of the day, the more knowledge the VA has, the better that they will just perform for you day in and day out.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that, man. Role playing is absolutely crucial. We do that in our team. We
mhm,
bring the VA on, and we're constantly, practicing. My partner and I, we're always doing role plays, putting them in
mhm,
some scenarios where they
mhm.
can really get used to, like, throwing some curveballs at them, right? And
Absolutely.
and really training them. And another thing we also do is we have a flow chart. So this
Mhm.
flow chart will kind of break down like what's considered a cold lead, what's considered a
Yes.
warm lead, and hot.
Mhm.
That way they know how to properly qualify them. That's what we do. So you guys do
Exactly.
something similar as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So again, too. Again, different trainings, and like I say this with all respect, like gurus that you subscribe to have different things that have different methods of what qualifies as a warm, a hot, or what have you, a nurture lead. So it's important, whatever training that you're getting, or if this is just your own system, that the VA knows what a hot lead is, what a
Right.
warm lead is, what a nurture lead is, and then again to um, role playing to the point where you're really stumping them. You're I always tell this sort of this joke. I was like, look, the training is going to be so intense, the training is going to be so intense that you're just going to pray to get on the dialer, because it's going to be that much easier.
And that's great, man,
Yeah.
because you're really putting them through the ringer. So when they actually
Yes.
get on an actual cold lead, they're like, this is a lot easier than what Sebastian's putting me through.
Yeah. And again, too, I tell a lot of, a lot of clients and just people in general that just because the cold calling is technically off your plate, it doesn't necessarily mean your workday has gotten lighter. It's now you have a responsibility to that VA to train them to your best of, to your best of your ability, because it will just pay dividends in the end, that your VA is that better trained, and they're ready to go after it.
Absolutely. So, if someone is considering hiring their first VA, what are the initial steps that they should take to ensure that they're not only finding a great VA, but
Mhm.
also knowing that that person is reliable?
Well, it's funny because it's just little cues. Have you? I mean, for example, if you ever want on a job interview, um, that's sort of the best kind of method to kind of look at. I was like, is this VA on time? You know, punctuality is very important to me, just because, you know, we're very busy. We have to be on a schedule, and if someone says that they're not on time, that's almost a red flag for me. Um,
Absolutely.
again, to, you know, you if this person it vibes well with your business, you might get a feeling that, hey, this particular VA doesn't necessarily mesh well with my, you know, core message or ethos. You know, you have to be hiring someone that you might get along with or you can lead. I feel that's very important. So I would just say, think back of, you know, job interviews that you went on or jobs that you did secure, and why did you secure those jobs? What made you stand out from everybody else? Now with the VA, there's other nuances that might be important to you. Um, for example, do they have real estate prospecting experience? A lot of them do. A lot of them just straight up do. Um, do they understand certain systems that you have purchased? You know, Podio, Follow Up Boss, Vulcan 7. A lot of these VAs do have experience working with those systems, so those are always a plus. But there's a plethora of things that you can kind of check through and make sure that the, you know, the VA is a fit for you, basically.
I'm so glad you brought up the fact about the interviewing process because that's
Hmm.
crucial, right? So, what
Absolutely.
type of questions do you suggest we should be asking as investors while interviewing these VAs?
Well, it's funny because I've witnessed a lot of interviews with you know, prospective clients and VAs, and I don't necessarily think the questions are important. Even
Okay.
even though I think, um, you know, whatever pleasantries or whatever questions you may have, absolutely ask them. But what I would keep a really keen ear for is you having a conversation with this particular person.
Mm.
Because again, too, that will translate on the phone. You want someone that you can have a conversation with. And if someone sounds a little bit robotic, a little bit nervous, um, and they just don't sound right, that probably will equate to what they might sound like when they're prospecting. So for me, when I want to hire a new VA, I just want to have a conversation with them. I was like, hey, you know, how do you take your coffee? I will literally have a conversation with them, and I will literally analyze how they say things more so than specific questions about the task that they have done or can do.
You know, that's interesting you say that, right? Because they could be very well scripted and they know exactly what kind of questions they're typically asked. So they
Hmm.
know how to respond it in a robotic, very nice way, or however you want to put it. But like you
Right.
just said, can they actually have a conversation? You know, yeah,
Exactly.
me and my partner Ash, we will not hire a VA without conducting an interview first. You
Absolutely.
can listen to all the pre-recorded sample calls you like, but in my
Hmm.
opinion, nothing beats a face-to-face conversation and asking questions to put that VA in a real life scenario, right? So,
Exactly.
like you just mentioned, are they having a conversation with the seller or are they interrogating and it's only a one-sided with questions, right? So, good
Absolutely.
point, and good point you brought that up. Now, that's what I really loved about you guys actually at VA Depot. Your company will reach out first and ask what our criteria is. Then you'll
Hmm.
pair 3 to 4 VAs and schedule a Zoom interview. Very
Correct.
professional. Not every company is doing that. So you guys are
Hmm.
doing a great job in that area. So
Yeah, and again, too, the reason why we do that is because, you know, if you were to leave it to me or just a company, you know, I would assign you a VA, right? Like, oh, Erica, she's a great VA, you know, she's gonna go work for Joseph. And at the end of the day, hey, this is not my business. You know, this is not Erica's business. This is your business. So for us to provide a selection of VAs that you can interview, I just feel more comfortable that way, just because you're hearing what they sound like, you're asking the questions that you want to ask, and you are making the decision, hey, I think Erica sounds the best and I think she might fit in my business. Now, what we do, a little bit differently is, for example, let's say you've been using a VA for a particular amount of time, and for whatever reason she interviewed really well, and it's just not working out. We will set up an entire round of interviews for you completely free of charge.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. I experienced that firsthand with you guys. When you
Hmm.
guys brought in the VAs, you brought them in one by one. It wasn't like all at once, like I'm doing a group interview,
Right.
and it was like very professional, whereas I've had other companies reach out to me and it's literally like someone sitting on a bed or something, in
Yes.
a ripped t-shirt, and it just had a bad feeling, and I'm like, this is
Yes.
not really professional. You guys were very professional way you guys did it. And that's why I like working with you guys, so great job on that part.
Thank you so much.
Sebastian, can hiring a virtual assistant be cost effective for new investors? What would you say the cost difference is of hiring a VA compared to like an in-person staff?
That's a great question. Um, so I really have to watch out because the new part is tricky because I know a lot of people are new and they hear VA and they're so ready to get on the VA train, but it's really important to kind of self-assess first before you put on a VA to actually make sure you're ready.
Okay.
Because again, too, what I tell my team, and I don't say this to be mean. I don't say this because I'm a greedy business guy. I was like, it's very important that we qualify our clients because we don't want to put them in a situation where they're not ready to
Mm,
handle a VA. So my first and foremost thing is like make sure you are ready, and then people are going to say, well, what's a qualified? How am I qualified? You've probably been making calls for the past 6 months and you're looking to kind of expand your business. You've invested into a dialer, you invested in data, and you constantly invest in those systems because I've ran into a lot of people where they're like, oh, I have money for 500 leads and we're going to make so much money off 500 leads. I was like, unfortunately, it's just not that way. You probably need 5,000 leads and then
absolutely.
constantly purchase that. Um, Once you are there, once you have graduated to that echelon of I am consistently investing in my business and now I want to expand, I want to hire a virtual assistant, then it becomes really interesting because the VA that you will hire literally will be on the dialer however long you want them on. I have VAs that are on dialers for 8 hours a day. They have an
Mm,
hour break, they're constantly pushing through, and it's very cost effective. You're talking about prices anywhere from $7 to $8 an hour, where if you were to hire, take my situation, the person that hired me um, in their wholesaling group had to give me 20% of every deal that I closed. So when you
right.
think about it, do you really want to give up 20% of your hard-earned assignment fees to a cold caller? That and
Yeah.
that's really upon the business owner. But if it were me, I would look to outsource that and pay someone an hourly rate instead of equity in an assignment fee.
I really appreciate the honest answer, and it's really the truth what you just said right now. It's
Hmm.
not going to be a cost effective for everybody. Not everybody's going to have the means to do so, right? But for
Correct.
me personally, in my experience, is
Hmm.
like I have a great W-2 job where I'm making a good income.
Hmm.
So my thing is I don't have time, and the thing is with this real estate business, as you know, you're either
Hmm.
going to forfeit time or you're going to forfeit money. And for
Exactly.
me, I don't have the time, so I have to forfeit the money. And that's why hiring a VA is beneficial for me because then they're
Hmm.
able to call 8 hours a day, like you mentioned. While
Hmm.
I'm at work, they're cold calling. And then when I get home, I'm able to jump on the leads that already what they filtered out through our system. So great,
Correct.
great point on that. And I really appreciate the honest answer
Hmm.
there. But since we're talking about pay,
Hmm.
how do we pay these VAs? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Do we pay through like a third party app like Wise or PayPal?
So, again, here I can speak from past experiences, but here at VA Depot, we are a U.S. based business. We're LLC'd here in the United States, and we have U.S. based payment processing through Square. Um, Now, again, too, there's two sides of my business. Um, and again, too, there's the client side that, I have to make sure that, my clients are happy, but also I have to protect my virtual assistants as well.
Right.
So I constantly make sure it's like, hey, what do you guys want? What do you need? What will make, what will make a good working environment? And usually that working environment, we collect payment usually at the beginning of the week, and then we pay them weekly. Now, but we are incredibly flexible. So again, too, if you're in a situation, it's like, hey, look, Sebastian, or if you're dealing, and again, too, VA Depot is 100% ran by VAs as well. Um, so I know you spoke to MJ. She's the number two on my team. You have a quick conversation with MJ. Like, look, MJ, we run payroll every 2 weeks. Can we pay every 2 weeks? That's not a problem. We grant that all the time. Or hey, I rather pay at the end of the week than the beginning of the week. We do that all the time. So here at VA Depot, we want to be as flexible as possible for the clients, but also too, we really try to protect our VAs as well.
Right. And, the reason I bring that up is because when I first hired my VA directly,
Hmm.
she was like, oh, I usually get paid through Wise. And I didn't know
Right.
what Wise was. I had to
Right.
download this app. It was a whole
Hmm.
process, and you got to
Yep.
pay fees. And when I noticed with you guys, it was like directly through Square, and it was
Hmm.
just a way simplified process compared to going through Wise. Wise would
Hmm.
take several days to get to her.
Yep.
So, and also like you mentioned about being flexible, that's what's great about you guys, because I know you guys do kind of request to be paid on a Monday. For us
Hmm.
personally, to make things simplified, we do all our payrolls every week on the end of the week at Friday. And I
Absolutely.
reached out to MJ, and MJ was completely fine with that. And I
Hmm.
that's really great that you guys do that. You guys are flexible with your clients. So
Yeah.
cool. Good.
Absolutely. And again, too, the payment via Square was very important to me because I had that was probably the main issue why I even started VA Depot, was because I was working with another VA company, and they said, "Oh, you need to start paying Wise," and it just was a bad feeling, and I ended the relationship with that particular company just because I felt like I was getting one overed, and I just wanted to pay them. So
Right.
that was very important for us to make sure that payment to the client was the very, very simple and easy. And I'm pretty proud of that, by the way. So thank you
No, that's
for noticing.
I noticed it, man. That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So, what are some of the basic tools and software knowledge that VA should be proficient in to be successful in the real estate industry?
So you won't, I mean, again, too, I haven't come across a VA that doesn't know their way around technology, because again, too, that's how they communicate with you. Um, but a simple question like, hey, what type of CRMs are you used to? For example, I use Follow Up Boss, so I always kind of ask that question, hey, are you familiar with Follow Up Boss? Um, Most of the time they are. It's really amazing. You just kind of throw out tools that you have, online tools that you have, and most of the time they're fairly proficient on it. Um, Obviously, email and just kind of ways around certain document files and all that stuff. But for my experience, most of the VAs that have reached out to me and the VAs that I've hired are very proficient in the latest, real estate technology or outreach technology.
Yeah, I think that's important because, it, if they're not proficient in it, that means
Hmm.
you have to take more time out of your day to really train them on what softwares you're using. So, I think it's
Correct.
a great point to bring up that. And another thing that we personally look for is, basic typing skills because
Yep.
they're going to be taking a lot of notes and maybe sending emails. So
Hmm.
we really got to make sure that, they know how to type and they're spelling words correctly and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So great
Yes.
point on that. So, you're doing a great job at laying out all the benefits a VA can bring to our company. But
Hmm.
as with everything in life, there's always challenges and hurdles, right? And
Absolutely.
unfortunately, VAs are no exception to this rule. I believe one of the biggest concerns for most investors looking to add a VA to their team is the
Hmm.
language barrier, right? As we
Correct.
jump on calls with these sellers, a heavy accent or mispronounced words can easily kill a deal.
Hmm.
Even for me personally, when I get cold called and I hear that accent, my
Hmm.
spider senses kick in and I start thinking it's a scam, right? So,
Correct.
what does the training process look like for a virtual assistant at VA Depot? Are you guys keeping this in mind? And if so, are there ways to improve the language barrier by implementing speech training?
So that is a very touchy subject for me because and again too, just out of my own experience, I feel like I operate in probably some of the hardest, most skeptical markets here in the United States. So I invest in Eastern Tennessee and Southwest Florida. Um, I have VAs with very heavy accents.
Mhm,
And they constantly produce for me. Now it is a gut check because you're constantly thinking like, hey, I'm spending money on this service. Are they going to perform or am I going to waste money? But time and time again, um, VAs with heavier than usual accents, I've had pretty much great success with them because again, too, we live in such a diverse country, right?
okay.
Where where hearing an accent is not very uncommon anymore. And again, too, what's interesting, particular, we source all of our VAs out of the Philippines, and I feel that in the Philippines, they have a good grasp on the language. Not only do they have their own language, but in school English is very very heavily taught just because they're looking to work for American companies. A lot of major American companies have call offices in the Philippines, and the Filipinas are the ones working those call centers. Now, where it might be difficult is you have sort of the I don't know. I've just never really had much of an issue, but I do understand sort of the hesitation. But I would closely monitor it if you still have a problem, and if you feel like the VA is not performing, then I would kind of look for a VA that has a softer accent, which they're out there because a lot of these VAs are educated in English.
Yeah, and I think it can easily be overcome with, knowledge, right? So just because
Correct.
they have an accent and they're talking to the seller,
Hmm.
as long as they kind of have experience and they know what they're talking about, then that can easily be overlooked. And it, like you just mentioned, it's actually becoming more common now, right? So a lot
Exactly.
of times when I'm calling like to order some wings now, I can't even
Hmm.
get a live person on the phone no more. It's actually
Yep.
going redirected to a call center. So I
Absolutely.
think as things progress and technology keeps growing, we're going to see a lot more VAs implemented in this space, right? So
Hmm.
I think people are going to get more familiar with it, but I have noticed personally sometimes when my VAs are jumping on calls,
Hmm.
sellers sometimes don't even give them a chance. They just shut them down and they hang up right away.
Correct.
So I was just wondering if you guys were doing anything different over there, if you guys are working with speech and training and stuff like that, just to kind of, I know it's they're born with that, and there's not really
Hmm.
much you can do about that.
Correct.
But maybe there's ways we can kind of smooth it out a little bit, if you will.
I mean, it's tough on our end. Now we do a really, I think we do a great job of sourcing professional VAs that do have prior experience. So if they do have an accent, they are professional. They've been in the rodeo before, so it's kind of an easy transition. But I think it has a lot to do with the training that they're receiving. So, for example, we have a script on the retail side where we had a VA that was having trouble with words, and that's sort of the importance of role playing,
Right.
making sure that hey, we're reading the script, a couple times every morning just to make sure hey, you can pronounce that word correctly. So again, too, we're doing our best to get you guys quality VAs, but also at the same time, it kind of falls on the client's responsibility to make sure that they are going through the script or whatever documents that you're going through and making sure that they are delivering whatever they need to deliver correctly and clearly.
Right. Good points. Good points.
Mhm.
So, give us some common challenges faced with working with virtual assistants and how they can be addressed.
Well, I can tell you one that doesn't really necessarily can be addressed, but like sometimes they'll have issues with power. Their power will go out for some strange reason, or they'll have
Mhm.
a storm that we're just not necessarily aware
They get a
about.
lot of storms over there in the Philippines.
Yeah. So and again too, in the Philippines, the infrastructure is not as good as in the States. So those are common issues that you might run into. Um, but again, too, usually, the VA will be very understanding and then try to make up those hours or kind of push through or get back whenever they need to. Um, but I mean, there's really not much to kind of worry about. Um, you know, what's always in the back of my mind is, hey, am I training this particular VA to my best of the ability? Now, again, too, not everyone's perfect. Sometimes they'll stumble through scripts. Sometimes they might lose you a deal. There's a bunch of scenarios, but not anything different than either your cousin calling for you or your
Mhm.
buddy or someone that you're bringing on to your business. The same things, the same scenarios, the same hiccups will happen with the VA, basically.
Right. As you know, our VAs have access to a ton of valuable and crucial information, such as addresses,
Hmm.
emails, and phone numbers, while in our system. We've
Hmm.
even heard stories of VAs stealing and selling off data to make a quick buck. Are
Correct.
there any security measures at VA Depot in place to protect clients' sensitive information?
So when we hire a VA, we really try to look for people that are wanting a long lasting working relationship with their client. We never want to be in a situation where they're looking for a quick buck. So we're constantly, looking at their character. And for the most part, I've never experienced that, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Um, for the most part, the VA is very committed and loyal. The last thing they want to do is to screw up a relationship where you fire them and then we never hire them as a VA for our clients. And again, too, their reputation is out there. There are forum boards, there's Facebook groups, and there's people constantly getting blasted that hey, this VA is not trustworthy. This VA, you got to watch out for this person. So we do as much as possible to make sure that you have a trustworthy virtual assistant. But it also kind of goes back onto the client. The client needs to make sure that they're not giving the VA's admin access to their sensitive stuff. Um, Doing an audit. I do an audit every week of all the incoming leads. I physically listen to the calls and listen to them because again, too, if the VA pushes, five hot leads, but they've technically had five hot lead convers or 10 hot lead conversations, that becomes a problem.
Right.
So again, too, at VA Depot, we do our best to hire quality and trustworthy VAs, but also at the same time, the client has to ensure their safety as well, making sure they don't give admin access, doing those lead audits, just for best practices as well.
Yeah, when we first hired our first VA, we were doing just that. We were monitoring all the time, and it was like constantly like having to track everything they do because you kind of have this trust issue, right? Like I don't know if she's gonna be scamming me. I don't know if she's actually doing a
Mm,
great job.
mhm,
So, one of the things that I really liked what your team expressed to me on our initial call was you have a business to run. You're not
yeah,
a babysitter. Your job
mhm,
is to go out and make the money, leave the monitoring up to us. So
mhm,
what you guys do is you actually assigned us an operations manager to oversee each VA, which is
correct.
great because it's true. It's like it would be a complete insufficient use of our time to have to
Mhm,
monitor each call and make sure our VAs are doing their job.
exactly.
So, in your opinion, what's the biggest misconception about hiring a virtual assistant?
I think the biggest misconception is that, the VA is sort of like a genie, and they're gonna fix all your problems. Um, you know, they they are a tool. It's like purchasing a dialer, right? Like you spend 200 bucks, 300 bucks a month on a dialer. It could be the fanciest dialer in the world, but if you don't pick up the phone and utilize the dialer, it's a paperweight. It's just a website basically.
Right.
And it's the same thing with the VA. The VA, they're an extension of you and your business. If you and your business have problems, your VA is just not going to fix that. Your VA has a very specific job, and they do that specific job well, and it is a team effort on your part to make sure that they're trained and they know what to do.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's just a plug and play model, right?
Yeah. And again too, I thought this way too. Sometimes people think that, oh, hey, you guys will pay for the dialer, you'll pay for the data, your VA will do this. And it's like, no, you have it, you have it all wrong. We provide, the labor essentially, and you provide the construction equipment. So again, that's another misconception, that people think that, hey, the VAs have all these tools. We don't have these tools. We're using the tools on your behalf basically, and what your business is providing.
Yeah, you really have to have your business down pat. You have to have
Yeah.
a system in place, and then it's like when you go work for another company, right? You're not going to
Hmm.
come in and they're going to expect you to redesign their whole business. They already have a system in place, and then you're just
Exactly.
working for that company and you're just trying to help them grow their company,
Mhm.
right? So it's the same
Yeah.
concept. So
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better, than that, because I mean there are some companies out there that you need to buy all this stuff, but um yeah, no, like I can't hone this enough. The VA is your employee. They're an extension of you, and it's basically how you want them to conduct your business on your behalf.
right. And so, smart investors, they track data as well as their average cost per contract.
Hmm.
Any advice for someone new to real estate on how to measure the success of a virtual assistant? Like what kind of KPIs do you recommend focusing on?
So, the ones that I really like right now, KPI wise, is what I'm doing with the retail side of it, right? So, and this might work. I haven't really tested it yet, but this might work for the investment side. So, every hour of calling, I want um I want seven I want 7 contacts, and a contact really is a person confirming that they own the house,
Hmm.
right? So that for me in my business, that is a great measure of a VA doing their job. If for whatever reason, they go on an hour without 7 contacts, and there's only like 2 contacts per se, well, like, hey, why is there only two contacts? Well, because I wasn't on the dialer. Or hey, maybe we need to refresh this list. It's time to refresh the list. So me personally, the 7 contacts an hour rule really holds a lot of water because we're able to constantly track that. The 7 contacts, out of those 7 contacts, maybe 2 or 3 of them are actually leads. And again, the leads vary whether they're warm, hot, or nurture. So that is a KPI that I go by on the retail, and I will start using that KPI for wholesaling and investment side as well.
And what about like leads? Do you have like a minimum requirement per day that you want your VAs to hit?
I was very pro, hey, I want you to hit, 25 leads, right? And for me, what I've realized is like if you say, hey, I want 25 leads in a week, the quality of leads will kind of go
Right.
down,
Right.
because then the VA is really kind of like they're working hard, but also that you've put in their mind that they need 25 leads, so they will just start talking to just anybody, and like they're like, hey, this lead is a lead because I need this lead. It will go into my 25 leads for the week, and it's garbage. So I've went from, okay, instead of wanting a specific number of leads each week, I want a number of conversations each hour. And that has really changed my business quite a bit.
Yeah, I think you just hit it right on the head. We used to have a minimum requirement of leads that we wanted to hit per day. And
Mhm.
what we noticed was when we were going back into our system and calling back these leads, like you just mentioned, they were trash leads. They weren't even actual leads, they were just follow ups.
Yep.
But we put this pressure on our VAs with like, hey, you have to hit 8, 10 leads a day, and
Mhm.
so she had it in her mind, like, oh, I got to hit this number. I got to hit this number instead of just focusing on having a conversation like you
Correct.
just mentioned. So great point on that,
Yep.
and I think that's another common mistake people make, and even a mistake I made myself. So we learn from them, right?
Yeah,
So
it's very common, and again too, you learn from these things. That's the wonderful thing about being a business owner is that, hey, maybe instead of putting that pressure on a VA or even yourself, right? It's like, oh, hey, if I don't get 2 leads by the end of the day, I suck. No, it's maybe you need to kind of research the KPIs that you actually think are important to you, and then crafting that to your business. Because honestly, when I moved from how many contacts am I having, it's really changed my business.
absolutely. So let's say our VA is not performing up to our expectations.
Hmm.
What happens next?
Well, are you talking about with VA Depot or just in general?
Let's say with VA Depot, what do you guys do? Like if I call you up or if I
Hmm.
call out MJ and I say, hey, you know what? I just got this VA. I thought she
Hmm.
was a great fit. She's
Hmm.
not working out. She's not a good fit for the company.
Hmm.
What would happen next?
So I mean, obviously, we want to keep you as a client, and we want to keep you, satisfied as a client. We would suggest another round of interviews. And again, too, we've had situations where, we've had to do this 3 or 4 times because, people would like a client would say, hey, yeah, I thought this VA would work, but it's not working. So we are committed to helping you find a perfect fit for your business. In the event that we cannot find that perfect um, VA or assistant for you. We don't have a contract with you, and again, too, that's why we kind of created this business is ultimate flexibility. If if we're providing a service and you're not gaining anything from that service, you shouldn't be locked in. So we would just part ways. If there was any refund in order, we would happily give you a refund and part ways as part the business relationship.
Great. And since we're on the subject of VA Depot, what
Hmm.
separates VA Depot from other VA companies?
Well, I think the the main thing is just ultimate flexibility. A lot of VA companies want to put you in a contract. Um, Again, for for good reason, right? It's not for a lack of reason, but again, to me personally, I don't like to get into contracts, so why should I expect my clients to get into contracts? And then also too, we really want long-term relationships with our clients, because the last thing I want to do is have a client for like a week and then they never use our service again. So I want to build rapport. I want to help, business owners grow, and we're willing to help you guys at any point of your career to really grow your team, whether you're starting off with one VA at part time, which is 20 hours, or you need a whole call center of VAs at full time. We're prepared to help, whatever you guys need. So we're very we love our clients. We want to help them, and then also too, um, you know, I I am a big believer in VAs. I use VAs. I started this company because I'm just like you guys, and I wanted a better quality VA on tap. So that's kind of how we're different.
Great, man. I'm with you on that one. I'm also for VAs. They have been a crucial component to our business, and they've really
Hmm.
helped us scale our business quite significantly. So I don't know how I would do without them, right? So
Yeah,
good point on that.
me neither.
Right. So
Yeah.
but let me ask you this. So, we're all aware that AI is on the rise, right?
Yes.
And
Hmm.
we're seeing, voice cloning, we're seeing auto
Hmm.
text replies,
Hmm.
LOI generators, all that good stuff. There
Yep.
are even companies offering AI virtual assistants now. It's crazy.
Correct.
So, how do virtual assistants evolve and adapt to stay relevant in the real estate industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
Now, like, there's some scary stuff with AI. There's these voice generators, and again too, that is constantly, that's constantly going to be there. That tech and that business will grow. But also too, I think there's going to be a constant need for a live person, because again too, maybe AI might get there, but it's not quite right there right now. You kind of know if you're speaking to a robot, um
Mhm.
face to face or even on the phone. Text, on the other hand, is a completely different story, but I still feel that there's a need for a live person. I feel that a live person can kind of think quickly. They can get the information out and then capture, whatever information they need to to capture fairly effectively, more than a AI generated voice right now.
Yeah, I get cold called by these. I don't know if they're voice clone or AIs or
Mm-hmm.
what, but as you just mentioned, you could tell it's very robotic. And
Correct.
sometimes I kind of play around with it, right? I'm asking certain questions just to see
Yeah.
how it responds, and you can tell it's not there yet. They're nowhere near yet, but it may be something that we're facing in the future. So something to
Absolutely.
keep in mind for you guys, since you run a VA
Hmm.
company. You may want to keep in mind of that. Like, how can we adapt and always keep a place in the real estate industry? So,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Sebastian, you're an investor yourself. You obviously see the benefits of VAs, considering
Hmm.
you now own a VA company.
Hmm.
You mind sharing a success story on how a VA was able to help you scale and grow your business?
Man, there's so many stories. But
Give
I'll
us
I'll give
one. Give us one.
I'll give you this most recent one right now. So, like I said, I have dived back into the dark side of retail, real estate listings, working with agents and stuff like that. And this particular agent that we're working for, um, literally last month went from zero listings. We had none, nothing, to about now. Fast forward to now, we have close to, hopefully listing number six within a 30-day period, and close to $2.5 million worth of production solely generated by VAs.
2.5 million. Wow. That's
Two and a
impressive.
half production, not gross commission,
Either
but
way, it's still impressive.
property value. Yeah, it's really impressive, and it just goes to show, if you put the time and the effort with the virtual assistant, you can scale very, very quickly within a little amount of time, 30 days, which is not a lot of time in the real estate world.
Right. It's all on you, right? It's up to you to train them to get them up to speed on what you want them to do properly.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I really like to do here on the Real Estate Unlocked podcast is to keep providing value to the community by giving
Mhm.
them a chance to ask questions along with me.
Absolutely.
And one of the questions I chose today was by Reese Ryan. And his question was trying to figure out the best use of a VA and which part of my business endeavors I want to expand.
Mm-hmm.
What would be some basic vetting questions to hire someone? Any
Mm-hmm.
thoughts on offshore or domestic and going with a company or freelancer?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, Obviously, and that question can be broken down quite a bit. So if they want to go through a freelancer, obviously, it's kind of like a one and done type deal. You kind of have to the freelancer has to get in touch with you, or you get in touch with the freelancer. Excuse me. And then interview them and see if it works out. With a company like mine, excuse me, we provide you multiple opportunities to interview VAs, and like we said earlier, if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, we can provide you with more VAs to interview. Now, figuring out what specific tasks you might want to hand off to a VA, that's kind of a personal thing. If
Mhm.
you feel that you want to spend less time cold calling, obviously get that over to a VA. Maybe you want to expand your social media. Maybe you want people to edit stuff for you. There's VAs for that. It just really depends on what your business needs are. So obviously, with us, we specialize in cold calling. We feel comfortable in cold calling, and the clients that reach out to us have a need to scale their outreach.
Right. Great answer, man. So, well, I think we covered majority of the benefits on how a virtual assistant can help grow your business,
Hmm.
as well as how to properly train them and what things to be aware of. Is there anything you can think of that we might have missed and didn't cover here today?
I don't know, man. We covered a lot. I mean, again, too, I think when you are ready to hire a VA, just be open to the process, because again, too, it's an ever evolving process, and it's never just like real estate. I've never had a deal go the same way ever. There's always something to that. And it's same thing with owning a business and hiring employees. It's never the same day. But again, too, I think when you're ready to hire a VA, you need to be open to the process, and it's a long process. It's never going to be, you might be lucky. You might have like a person that's just a beast, but again, to commit yourself to your business, make sure you provide good training, and you're a resource to this VA, and everything should cover itself. That's pretty much my only input if we didn't cover that.
No, great input.
Yeah.
Sebastian, where can people get a hold of you?
Man, so I man all the social media, but if the I'm always on our Instagram, VA_depot, and then also if they want to send me a message on our website, vadepot.net, there's a section at the bottom that they can email me. That comes directly to me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So
Great.
website and our Instagram.
Well, Sebastian, it's been an absolute honor to have you on the podcast here today. I think you're doing something great by not only creating more jobs for people overseas and being able to provide for their families, but you're also creating more opportunities for new investors to help start up their business with very little overhead costs. I think VA Depot is setting the standard on how other VA companies should operate and make it simple for us investors to find quality workers and to help us grow our business. I'm excited to see where you guys go from here, and I'll continue to be a long-term client myself.
Thank you so much, Joseph. And just as a little caveat, and hopefully to kind of get people on their business and their VA journey, we will provide a promo code for your listeners, JM562. They can go to our website, enter the promo code in the promo code box or in the message section of the email contact form. And they will receive a $15 discount on the admin fee. We normally charge $50, but we'll cut that down to $35. I'm terrible at math, as as you can see, but
Nah, man.
they will receive that discount if they put that promo code JM562.
Oh man, I really appreciate that, Sebastian. That's great of you to do that for my listeners. So if you guys want that, you know how to get it. JM562. So now, if you guys are finding value from this episode, don't forget to show your boy some love. It only takes a few seconds to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like this and drop a comment down below if you use VAs as well and how it's helped benefit your business. Appreciate all the continued support. And guys, stay tuned because we're pumping these episodes out every 2 weeks. Not to mention, I've got Kevin Cho from the Sub 2 community coming up next to come and drop some amazing tips on y'all. Best believe I'm going to keep bringing you that fire. Thanks, Sebastian.
Thank you.